the people who have responded that they are willing to serve. I didn't get a lot of people making suggestions for, oh, sorry. Can we do roll call?
A roll call. Commissioner Mina Edmondson.
Yes.
Commissioner Rabia Khan. Commissioner Madeline Torres.
Here.
Commissioner John Eister.
Present.
Commissioner Jason Phillips.
Present.
Commissioner Jason Query.
Present.
Commissioner Karen Crosby.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Let's move forward with voting for commissioners for the incoming year. At this point in time, I do have a ballot that I placed at everybody's seat, and I would like us to consider nominations from within the commission at this time. Are there any additional nominations that anyone would like to make? Anyone who was willing to serve in a position that we haven't put on this agenda?
I could do the secretary.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Let's move on to a vote. I am currently the interim chair. I agree to continue if I am voted on through the end of this year, and then I want to reconsider and allow others to perhaps take the position at this time, but I am willing to continue to serve for now, and based on, where we stand when we vote for the 25, 26 commissioners. Is anyone that I have listed on the nominations have any concern about them filling the positions? Okay. I believe we need to have a motion for the position of chair and then a second.
I'll make the motion to vote for the chair. Second.
The only nomination we have is for Mina Edmondson. If we would like to take a vote on that.
Commissioner Jason Query.
Mina Edmondson.
Commissioner Jason Phillips.
Yes, Mina.
Commissioner Crosby.
Yes.
Commissioner Edmondson.
I'm not going to vote for this.
Commissioner Khan.
Minor.
Commissioner Torres.
Mina Edmondson.
Commissioner Eister.
Mina.
At this point, then, I am officially the chair for this year, so I will move forward with the rest of the meeting. Vice chair, we have two people willing to serve, Karen Crosby and Jason Query. Can I have a motion to move forward with the vote?
I'll make the motion to vote for the vice chair. I'll make the motion to vote for the vice chair.
Second. Commissioner Phillips.
Okay, Ron.
Karen. Commissioner Query.
I withdraw my vote.
I'm sorry?
Can I withdraw my vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Crosby.
Do I have to withdraw my vote?
No.
Okay, I'll vote for myself.
Okay. Commissioner Edmondson.
I vote for Karen Crosby to continue.
Commissioner Khan. Karen Crosby. Commissioner Torres.
Karen Crosby.
Commissioner Eister.
Karen Crosby.
It looks like Karen,
We have a 6 to 7, yes.
looks like Karen Crosby has been voted on for the vice chair this year. Jason, we thank you for being willing to serve in this
Step up.
position. And we'll see how things move forward. The secretary, we have one nomination. Is there any others that we want to make at this time? That nomination is someone who is willing to serve, Madeline Torres. Can I have a motion to move forward with that vote?
I make a motion that we move forward with the vote for Madeline Torres, secretary.
I'll second it.
Can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Phillips,
Madam Torres?
Commissioner Query,
Madeline Torres?
Commissioner Crosby,
Madeline Torres.
Commissioner Edmondson,
Madeline Torres.
Commissioner Khan,
Madeline Torres.
Commissioner Eister.
Madeline Torres.
Did I miss anyone?
Madeline?
Madeline.
It's Madeline.
Yes, Commissioner Torres.
I'm not voting.
Okay, it looks like we have a full slate of officers for this year. One thing that I had noted when I connected with everyone as we moved forward is that Simara has been functioning as the secretary, taking minute notes. I don't believe that we need to change the who's taking the minutes during the regular meetings, but Ms. Torres, I think if we go into executive session, then you would take the minutes for that. Does everyone agree to that?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Mina, just to be clear, she's not taking the treasurer position.
No,
Okay.
no, and at this point in time, it doesn't seem that the treasurer position is necessary for the commission. That doesn't mean we won't reinstate that at another time. Do we have any public comments? Mayor?
Waste of paper, it was supposed to be double-sided.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Mayor Michael Helfrich. I wanted to start off first by thanking you, commissioners, for your service. This is all volunteer, and I really appreciate your investment in your community and in the people of York City, as well as our director and the staff of HRC. I wanted to start off just by looking back a little bit and refreshing kind of where we came from and where we are right now. I am ecstatic at the progress that we have made, I will say, within the last 5 years or so, from an unstaffed HRC, an unsupported HRC staff at some points. Robbie was hanging out there on her own. But this commission has really pulled together and supports the staff, and I appreciate that. And the staff that we have now is excellent. I do have to address a couple things that we are in this changing climate right now, and I don't see anybody that I know of that disagrees with me to say that we are in a tougher political climate for making sure that all people are protected equally under our ordinance. Certainly, the executive orders that I've put in front of you, this is an internal analysis done by my chief of staff, who worked as a chief of staff for Congressman Platts for 12 years on Capitol Hill. He's very familiar with executive orders and with federal level orders and legislation. So I had him go through them all to see how these affect us. And it does sadden my heart to see the executive orders that are in front of us, but at the same time, these executive orders contain things that make it difficult for us to just continue without recognizing the changes at the federal level and the power of the federal government over resources that come to this city. And yes, you may have heard in some of my recent decisions, one specifically about the Trust Act, that I am very concerned that we would lose funding that helps people, all people in the city of York, with career training, with housing, food at our homeless, or at our food banks, the homeless shelter, all the funds that go to the home grants for more affordable more affordable housing, and the funding for all the programs that we provide through CDBG, as well as now we were informed since the executive orders, this also affects the COPS grants, it affects the firefighter safer grants, and any money that we receive from the federal government. So recently, in January, actually 2 days before the change of administration, I met with mayors from all across the country, and we looked at how this was going to affect us. Now, that's before the executive orders came out, but we already had a pretty good idea of what things would look like. And so at that time, we really looked internally at what our assets were as a group of mayors, over 200 mayors all together, the mayor of Denver, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of LA could not be there because of the fires out there, but Mayor Bass, a friend of mine, could not attend. But we know, and even the mayor of Lancaster, over 250 cities have been targeted by a group called the America First Group, which is essentially the de facto directors for Trump's policies now that you will see outlined in some of these executive orders. Again, these are not things that I agree with, but these are the orders from the executive of the United States, and we have to figure out how to work and what choices we are going to make. In this group of mayors, we decided that those mayors that are already on the list are going to team up and try and fight against these actions. Those of us that are not on the list, many of us with few resources, are not going to become part of the lawsuits, are not going to directly jeopardize the funding that is coming to our cities. So that was something, again, some of you that have known me for a long time, perhaps activist Michael Helfrich would not make that decision. But as the mayor having to safeguard the resources of this city, I've had to make that difficult decision. So as you have probably heard, as I'm sure you have heard, some of these really affect, they've got the defect, I'm sorry. They really affect the ordinance and the way we can apply the ordinance without being put under the scrutiny of the federal government and being and having them bundle us in with the others that they are already attacking. I am not suggesting in any way that we change the ordinance. What I am suggesting is we have to look at if there is anything that we are doing above and beyond the ordinance that can draw attention to us. And so, again, the The HRC is designed and was created to make sure that our residents are not discriminated against, and particularly, very specifically, the classifications that we have put in our ordinance, that these individuals are protected against employment and housing biases, prejudices, discrimination. The wiggle room, I think, and I am very happy with what our staff has done and what you have done. The wiggle room, I think, where we have right now is, are we doing anything beyond that that could be drawing attention to us? And this is where the director and I have had some disagreements on what the purview of the HRC and their staff are, what materials are appropriate or not appropriate for the HRC to be handing out, because while I do look at this as an independent commission, everything that the commission puts out has York City stamped on it. And in Washington, D.C., they don't care if it's York City HRC or York City, or for that matter, even York County, because most states don't have all the municipalities, so they just look at York as York. So what we do and what you do has effects on all of us. So I just gave you these, and I've handed these out to nonprofit organizations. All of our directors have received these so that they understand exactly. I am right now working, I will give you some examples. You know, the terminology DEI has essentially been outlawed by the president. What hasn't been outlawed is to say what we mean. To really say what we mean, something that would be as true in 1970 as it is in 2000, as it is in 2025, as it will be in 2500. And that is, we expect that all people will have access and will be treated equally. And if in the past they have not been, we will make an effort today to make sure that they are uplifted, that we all reach that goal that many of us have, and that is that level playing field. We all acknowledge that it hasn't been here, and it's still not here today, and we have some more work to do. But, for instance, our comprehensive plan, it was full of DEI, it was full of these things that are now trigger terminology. And those of us that have been around for a long time, particularly me in the environmental field, I've never used the word environmentalist because that's a word that was grabbed by opponents of people protecting the environment, and it was turned into something bad. The word liberal in the 1950s was a great word, and then at some point it was taken away. Even global warming, climate change. We understand that sometimes words and phrases are grabbed and are twisted and turned against us. But that's when it's even more important to use the words that we mean instead of what might be considered a catchphrase of the day. And so I have instructed my folks to go back through our comprehensive plan and just write what we mean, so that it is an eternal document, or at least 30 or 40 years, as a comprehensive plan should be, and not use the terminology of the day. So that's just one example of where the administration is attempting to continue to do our good work without making headlines, without being caught by somebody who's looking for DEI. We don't need to say these things. And again, I expect that other people will disagree with me. I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate this, and as well as are the rest of the mayors that have discussed how we're going to advance through this. Now, what brings me to here today very specifically, though, is how we are working with the immigration issue. And I have not yet, and I apologize to HRC staff, I was incapacitated for the month of January. I had pneumonia for 2.5 weeks, and then the gout for 2 weeks, and I didn't do what I should have done, which is figure out exactly what we are going to do. I have made efforts, and we will continue to make efforts to try and help anyone that is working with our immigrant community as far as we can that still meets the letter of the executive orders. But it is a different world today than it was on January 19th, and we have to figure out what to do. So what has occurred here in recent weeks is that the HRC has distributed materials, the HRC staff has distributed materials regarding immigration status. And that is not one of our protected classes. I believe that and support organizations that want to help immigrants, but at this current time, that is not one of our protected classes. Race, absolutely. You know, all the classes that we have, absolutely. But immigration is not one. And as we all know, that is the national trigger right now. It's the thing that is most likely to put us from the unnoticed do-gooders into the noticed targets of the federal government. So I need some assistance. I believe that the last time that I really spoke to you, I talked to you about who really, where the HRC staff really falls, as far as who has oversight. And it is a little murky, because on a day-to-day HR level, following the kind of the rules of the city, that falls under the administration. When it comes to the policies, the annual plans, and the general oversight of what is happening in the office, that does fall on you. Now, some of you will remember, and it is my opinion that I do not want to see the commission have a day-to-day direction. I don't think that is needed. You know, I think at one point it got a little bit too far in that direction, but I do think these general understandings of what the HRC is about and what the HRC is directing the staff to do, we need to make some, I need you to make some determinations. And very specifically, that is right now on immigration. So the HRC staff has chosen to distribute some materials that direct individuals not to comply with immigration agents that have gotten involved in organizing for the protection of immigrants, all things that Michael Helfrich agrees with, but not things that the mayor right now can agree with. And being that these are not protected classes under the ordinance, I'm asking HRC to look at this. No decision needs to be made tonight, but I did come tonight because it is needed very soon. I am very concerned at the risk of shifting from the one column to the other column, of putting our resources at risk. So the ordinance seems to say that there is room for advocacy for the HRC staff. I have always interpreted that, no, let me say it this way. Until now, Michael Helfrich did not care if the HRC was sliding somewhat outside of the bounds of the ordinance, because nobody was looking. The more good you can do, I'm all for that. But this is a different climate now. So I have to figure out how we can do the most good without getting targeted by an administration that does not seem to want to do the same kind of good that we want to do. So I'm asking for the HRC to take another look at the ordinance. That is the directive from the city council and mayors. Those are the protected classes, and determine whether or not the HRC staff should be engaging in work around the immigrant community.
Can we see a copy of all those distributed? I haven't seen anything. Red cards. You have the red cards that have been distributed? I mean, I can go into greater detail if you like.
Yeah, this is just an intro to the conversation. We had a meeting today, and I wanted to make sure that this got on the table. So, yes, there are little cards that can be shared that on one side of it, it's just your rights, your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, but on the other side, it says, don't open the door to immigration agents. Don't talk to immigration agents. That now is the city of York telling people not to follow the laws of the federal government. That's more of a directive. If you tell people their rights, that's one thing. But let me say again, the use of city time and resources for this particular issue is not outlined in the ordinance. It's not. It's not something we've ever voted on. It's not something that we ever empowered the HRC to work on. So again, there may be differences of opinion on that when it comes to advocating against discrimination, but I believe the terms advocating discrimination were very specific to the groups that were enumerated in the ordinance. So again, I do not enjoy this. This is not, even vetoing the Trust Act was a sad thing for me, but I knew it was going to protect more people than the actual ordinance was going to protect. Yeah, I would ask you to review the ordinance and come up with a determination, and maybe by email you can have some discussions on this, and just get back to me as soon as possible. The last thing I want to see is us lose our ability to do good by thinking we're doing good, I don't even know how to explain it, it's so convoluted. That, when we try to do too much good, then we get caught. And then we lose our resources to do the good that we wanted to do in the first place. And I would also end with the fact that, and hopefully we can work on the funding for HRC, but this is, currently the HRC is greatly funded by the federal funds that are at risk right now. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe that can be shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I believe that Robert's Rule of Order does not allow us at this time to question the public comments or make any kind of statement based on those. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mayor, for coming and sharing the information that you have.
Absolutely, and I'll leave it this time so there's no back and forth. You all can do with that what you will. Thank you very much.
You mean he is welcome to stay, though, if he wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Okay, okay.
Unless you got anything for me.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay, let's move on to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who?
I did.
Do we have any administrative updates? Executive Director?
Hi. Yes, I have just a few that I wanted to run through to kind of give you all a heads up on what we've been involved in recently. When Miguel comes back, we'll go a little bit more into detail about the cases that we've been seeing.
Could you be a little louder?
What's
I
that?
ask you speak a little louder.
Oh, yeah, sorry. When Miguel comes back, we'll go into more detail about the specifics of some cases, because I like when Saimata and Miguel can share with you some details. Oh, I don't need to. Okay. I'm blowing them out of the room. But I did want to kind of bring you up on some of the things that have been most pressing and where we are right now, and then I have actually some good news to share with you. I hope that you share in the good news the way I do. Okay, first of all, just want to let you know that the Affordable Housing Association has really become a great collaborator, and we've been asked to come speak at their annual staff meeting on fair housing. So that's pretty that's exciting that we can do some collaboration with them. And other areas that we're collaborating, the mental health collab that is led by Lisa Kennedy meets monthly. This is an ongoing. It's been well in the works now for a year plus, taking a look at the mental health of Black and brown bodies in York. It's nice because it sort of intersects with a lot with what the YW is doing, which is the State of Black Lives in York. And so there's a lot of crossover with the same folks. So we're really seeing this sort of coalescence of a good group of folks who are doing some really good work. Tomorrow, ironically, there is a citywide immigration meeting that is being held by the Health Coalition, which is part of WellSpan, and PIRC. There are numerous stakeholders who are coming together to have that at the Center for, help me.
Engagement.
Thank you, community engagement. How would you know that? No, I'm just kidding. Additionally, back in the fall, I was asked by Kathy Bollinger, who is at the YCCF, to do a presentation at the library on ageism and discrimination, and we are taking that on the road. Band's back together. We're going to Hanover, and we're doing that next week. Additionally, PHRC is having an advancing affordable fair housing risk assessment and a group. Last month, I was invited to go up to PHRC with, again, other stakeholders in the state and meet at the governor's roundtable to discuss affordable housing and as it pertains specifically to homeless and houseless people. It was a great meeting. We had a great number of folks come. I dragged the staff up so that they could keep me in line, as it were. And so that task force then meets again next week. I'm sorry, tomorrow. You may know that this month specifically, YWCA has been holding numerous events on the State of Black Lives, and the gala is coming up next week, and we are all going to deck ourselves out and go support the YWCA. We have two huge settlements that have come to fruition at the beginning of the year. We have and because this is public knowledge, we can now tell you who they are. $10,000 was awarded for disability discrimination against Prince Street. And I say their names because it's public knowledge, but also to acknowledge that both of these places were very cooperative and came in good faith to provide a settlement for those complainants who came to us. So that was a good settlement. The other one was for $39,000, and that was v. WellSpan, also disability. Both came from the minute WellSpan walked in the room, as it were. I say that because we've been on Zoom or Teams. The attorney acknowledged that they dropped the ball and have been very proactive in coming to this. So it's not just a positive outcome because we were able to pull it off, but because the other two parties came in good faith and really did work to remedy the situation, and that's always exciting. So I think it's important to name that because we don't always see people who are willing to come forward and say, yep, we missed it, let's see how we can fix this. So that's very exciting. So 50 grand in a month, that's not bad. We'll take it. I think HRC should get a cut, but no, I'm just kidding. Finally, we have a date a place, a time, and a speaker for our diversity event. And I want to make sure that you are okay with the speaker, and I say that knowing that you will be. So we have April 25th at the History Museum, brand new, sparkling new History Museum. I know everybody's going there, but hopefully we're still on the cusp of being a little cutting edge. And the name of the event right now, because it ties in with the speaker, our keynote, is Finding Hope in the Midst. Okay, it seems appropriate. The speaker, his name is Reverend Dr. Miguel de la Torre. I don't know if you've ever heard about him. He is a Christian ethicist, not to scare off people who, that's not to scare you off, Rabia, because I know, I'm saying that because I hear Christian and I cringe sometimes too, but he is a Christian ethicist. He works on the intersectionality of race, class, and gender. He is a primary advocate for immigration rights, but also big on intersectionality with regard to a multitude of those who would fall into our protected class, as it were. He wrote a book a number of years ago called Embracing Hopelessness. He really comes at this, let me see if I can do it justice. He comes at this from the idea that most of us who fall into some lane of privilege don't necessarily understand the concept of hope because we don't understand the concept of desperation. And so he really comes at it from a place of understanding if we are seeking hope, we have to also understand what that hope means for those who don't have what we have and who can't use hope itself as a point of privilege. Make sense? Plus he's funny, plus he was a professor of mine. Plus, he's very reasonable.
Plus he's Caribbean.
And yes, plus he's Caribbean. He is born and raised in Cuba and has been in the U.S. since he was a child. So I encourage you to go to his website. He's really quite brilliant. He was my nemesis in college. I say that only jokingly, in seminary. I've also made it clear that this is not a religious conversation, that there is a wide swath of individuals who will be there from a multitude of backgrounds, that he is not going to be preaching, let's put it that way. He is coming from the perspective of how to find hope in the midst of all the chaos. He is usually in Europe at least once a month, giving these presentations all over the world, so he's internationally renowned. So we got him for a song, all things considered. So I hope that meets, I hope you get as excited as I am. Let me put it to you that way. Please, Miguel de la Torre, Google him. He has a website. He'll lay it out for you. He has a couple of talks on there that you can read. He's written over 30 books plus, and that's not the co-authorship that he's been involved in. He also produced a movie called Trail of, no, not Trail of Tears. Why can't I remember it now? I have to look it up. But it is about immigration coming across the southern border.
What is the date again?
The 25th, April 25th.
Will this be,
We're going to do a 5:30 to 8:30, and a full stop at 8:30, by the way. Last year we went a little long, but we're trying to not overdo it this year.
will it be a dinner? What's the format?
So the format will be similar as last year. We like the food. If y'all like that spread, we wouldn't mind repeating that again. I think Liz Morales did a great job with that. The idea is that we can come in, we can mingle, we can have conversation. We will do our year, our year in review. Hopefully have some form of spoken word or something like that, and then really set it up so that he wants to be able to present and then also have a lot of room for conversation. So it might be that the presentation happens while people are eating. We will have tables for people to sit at this time so that can happen. and then followed up by conversation.
How much are the tickets?
We haven't determined that yet. It's a stickler because we have to raise enough money to have the next event, but I also want to be able to open it up for those. So last year, what we tended to do was a sliding scale is how it played out. I am open to suggestions. If you have a different format, if something that doesn't sound right, you'd like to if you're thinking that something else might be good, some other form of entertainment, whatever, we can talk about that. But the idea is to make it a fun fundraiser, but also accessible. So,
Was last year's event also on a Friday?
yes.
So we don't see that as impacting, having it on a Friday with evening?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I thought we had mentioned that Friday evenings weren't like a great time to do events. They didn't get a lot of turnout or, no?
I mean, we ended up with a halfway decent turnout last year. A lot of times it is also about availability, both with the venue, although I think we could have gotten that on a Thursday. What happens too is that it was more about availability with the speakers, actually.
What is the cost, of the event? So
The whole
maybe
event?
start from the top, and then when we talk about tickets and sponsorships, what's the cost for the whole event?
It varies from year to year, depending on who. Like last year, the initial speaker was supposed to be $10,000. We ended up paying $7,000 with the two speakers because the one canceled. This year, his fee, he begins at $5,000, but he is flexible because he likes to work with groups that do the work. So included in that will probably be his lodging and his travel. So it'll be a one package, which is not bad coming from Denver. We got a very good deal, $3,500 last year on food. I mean, if you remember the spread last year, that whole thing was about $3,500.
I was going to say, we could do about half of what.
I know, a lot of it was left. And the venue itself is $1,900 because we get a 25% discount because we're nonprofit. So those are the big expenses.
So about 10, a little more.
Yeah.
And what do we need to raise?
Historically, we needed enough so that we could do it again the following year. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the year before I got here, what was the total for that? I know it was $7,000 just for the food.
Yes, we had, it was close to 12.
$12,000, okay. So we're staying in the ballpark. We actually did really well with sponsorships last year. What do we have right now, like 20?
Yeah, it's almost 20, 19.
Yeah, we have about $20,000 in our pocket. Eventually, it would be nice to have a fundraiser, two things. One, it would be nice to have a fundraiser where we can make enough to supplement our income. To the mayor's point, right now, we have about $10,000 a year that is covered by the block grant. We have the other salaries, half of mine and Saimato's at this point is ARPA, so that money's already in the pocket. Like, that's not money we're waiting to come in. So for 2025, I would be cautiously optimistic that we're okay. Going forward, if we can make $100,000, that'd be great, John. So if you know how to do that, please. But historically, my understanding is it's just enough to carry over to the following year. We're actually in a pretty good spot from the year before.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it. That's my news.
Good.
I thought it was good.
That's good.
Thank you.
Do we have any staff reports, Samara?
We don't have the report.
No, we were gonna wait for the next time so that they can present together, if that's
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Do we have any old business that we need to cover? I do not believe we do. New business, I believe there are a couple of things that we need to discuss. First of all, we need to determine the commissioner's residency. We have been functioning in a way that the residency, when someone joined the commission, carries through their term, but there has been questions about the balance of the residencies on the commission between city and state or county.
Right?
So at this time, I'd like to ask everyone, and we have the second page of the ballot has a list of the commissioners and their current terms, if we can add to that the residency of each commissioner. And I am a resident of the city of York, Mina Edmondson. Karen?
I am a resident of the city.
I used to be a resident. I was yanked out of it. I'm county now.
County.
City.
Right. Initially city, but now county.
County.
Okay, Jason, you are county.
Which one?
Both are county.
Both Jason.
Madeline, you are city.
City.
And Jason? Phil?
County.
Mina, do you mind if I jump in with, oh, go ahead.
May I ask, I believe is Jason Phillips and Commissioner Khan, when did you move to county? Like at least a month and the year?
The day I got married, so I waited until I had
I hope you know that date.
That'll be March 26, 2022.
Okay, and Commissioner Phillips?
August of 24.
Mina, do you mind if I just jump in with what I'm going to try to do? Are you okay if I come in with what I want to try to do? Okay. So if you recall the last time we talked about this, we didn't know if it was policy or ordinance that said what the breakdown had to be. Turns out it's in the ordinance. If it's policy, you all can vote to keep folks on. Ordinance, I have to double check and see what we can do. I'm guessing, I'm making this up. I'm hoping that there is some leeway that the commission can vote for this particular panel of commissioners to say we're going to allow this makeup for this service. But I have to ask Diana, since she's the city clerk, whether or not that you can do that. And if not, then we always have the possibility of tweaking the numbers in such a way that we go to council and we say, can you do the vote? Can you vote to allow this to be a contingency for a short period of time?
What is the ratio that we're allowed to have?
We're allowed to have 8 city and 3 county.
How many counties do we have now? 3?
4.
And the full council is 11 and not
11.
9? Okay.
Someone's going to vote somebody off the island.
For what it's worth, and probably not worth much, I do work in the city.
Right.
So do I.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe there's some, I mean,
Well,
I know
and
what the ordinance says, but it's not like we're here every day.
I agree,
Yeah.
and that's why I want to check with Diana, that we don't want to vote anybody off the island. We want to keep you here. We're not that crazy. We don't want you to go anywhere. So it's just a question of how can we do this in such a way that at least demonstrates that we are doing this in good faith. And I think if the council is okay, like once I check with Diana, she'll tell us whether or not we have to go to council, and just as long as everybody knows what's going on and the decision is above board, I think we're okay, but I need to get that in details for you. Okay? All right, so you're not off the hook yet, is my point.
It's clear our next person has to be in the city.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Move my papers and don't know where they are. New business, and also I would like permission from the commission to ask that we as a commission submit questions to the mayor based on the information that was presented here, so that we can get clarification of some of these things that were listed, because my gut feeling is a good bit of this goes against the mission that we hold, that we go forward with, because many of these things can then be listed as falling under these DEI practices, or the measures that they're changing the definitions of. So I would ask that we pull together a list of questions, if possible, submit them to me, and we will share them with our staff and with the mayor so that we can get better clarification.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, can we talk about this or no? No, we don't.
We can. The question becomes, do you want to do it publicly or?
Executive, I think.
I think executive.
Session.
And then we will generate some questions, and I'm sure there will be more that we don't get answered. So at this point in time, do we want to adjourn the meeting and move into executive session?
Yes.
I make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I agree. Anyone disagree?
No.
Okay.